Hang on a second. Probably would have helped if I had that set up to go. We on task today, chap. How's it going? Goodness gracious. Oh, man. I don't even know. I don't even know, like, what to, how to start. It has been an actual day. Um, it's been an actual day. I'm still hella broke out. I can see it on screen. That's terrible, and I hate everything about it. Um, but it is what it is, and I need to stop staring at my own face. I've been meaning to figure out if the PNG thingy would work with this um, what's it called? The web client. I think it would. I'm allowed to choose where my video is coming from, so it might just mean I have to fiddle with it off stream and see if it'll work. Um, I think the volume is good. Stereo auto. I don't have noise cancellation or anything turned on for it, so am I using the right? Hang on a second. Snowball. Well, that helps. I should have checked that first. We vibing. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're all good. How's everybody doing? I know I just started, so I'm probably talking to myself, but that's fine. I really need to repost my stuff on all of the discords, but all of the discords that I'm in that are willing to do self promo. I know how some people can get, and it's understandable. Um, I am of the mind that I like to uplift community, especially considering that I'm still pretty new to streaming. I say new, but I've been on this silly app for a while. Hi, Ari, how you doing? I've been on this silly app for a while, very inconsistently, I admit. So hopefully, you know, um, I get better about that. Um, Schedule's been a little all over the place, so I blame that. Um, Let me just drop a quick shout for Ari. I hope I'm spelling. Nope. Let me get the right freaking handle so I'm doing correct. There we go. Boop. Excellent. Good stuff. I need to also actually get around to finishing all of the fucking texts, the auto text and shit. Welcome back from the ads. If you had ads, if you didn't have ads, awesome. Thank you for supporting me. Or for Twitch deciding you didn't get ads that round. That's always a nice treat. Um, Let me try and find my thoughts again. Schedule, yes. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned it on stream last time or not. I work, um, offline work, IRL work, has been a little nutty for the past month or so. I was originally hired to work at a hotel as a front desk agent. Um, they decided after me being there all of 3 days and hiring an additional person for some ass reason, I don't know. They decided they liked that person better or more than me, or they were more qualified. I don't know the details. The state that I live in the good old US of A, is very right to work. So that means that they can fire you because they don't like your shoes and they don't even have to tell you why. So that happens, and I lost the job, and then I had a absolute meltdown about it, which, super fun. And in a surprising change of events, I actually managed to pull myself out of said um, depression spiral and applied for another job and got an interview immediately. And the interview itself was more of a yap than an interview, which is always a good sign. I love a good yap. That usually means that the people who are running the business are also neurodivergent, so that's always a good sign. Working with other neurospicy folks is always a plus, not a minus, because that means at least they'll understand if you're having a moment. They will be, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Empathetic is probably an okay choice. They will be empathetic to your crazy, and they will, I shouldn't say crazy, and they will allow you a few seconds to, gather yourself, etc. Um, but having done a training shift there Tuesday, I want to say, um, everything worked out fine, and I'm due in again tomorrow. I worked Tuesday and Tuesday and Thursday, so today, at the quote unquote original job, the OG job, the job that I've been working on since September. And that's fun because originally I the story of that job is very illustrious and interesting. I was originally hired on to work probably 30 some odd hours a week. Um, Literally after he hired me with this information, within a couple of hours of the interview being done and me going and getting the blood test done, because you have to do that kind of crap, it's stupid, but you have to, was immediately told, hey, remember how I said you were going to work 30 hours? Actually, it's going to be closer to something like 22, maybe. Maybe. And then I did that for a couple weeks, and because I was riding the city bus everywhere to get to and from, and I didn't want to wait to start my shift for a whole hour in the lobby and be unpaid for that hour when I could be at home relaxing and having, a good time mentally preparing for the masking I'm about to do for however many hours my shift was. He decided I wasn't reliable enough because of me relying on the buses, which operate just fine, except on occasion they might be a couple minutes late. Or in my case, if I miss the bus, normally I immediately jump into a ride share to get myself to work, but I might still be a couple minutes late because I gotta wait for the ride share to fucking show up. He decided I was unreliable and he reduced my hours further. He hired on another person. That person took one of the 2 days I was working, and now I was only working 1 day a week. So that sucked. And this whole time, since that eventually was allotted to me, I keep moving the desk because my hand is on the table. I'm going to stop that right now. Since that was allotted to me, I have been looking for additional work. Unfortunately, I live in a college town. And what that means is that um, I am only I am subject to the employment of the region. So if college kids come and go and they have jobs, part-time jobs, service jobs, whatever, those places aren't hiring until those students are leaving for break or whatever, until their hours are changing because they need to focus on specific studies because there are tests in every single semester slash quarter, and that will greatly affect availability for students specifically. And the same goes for like moving apartments and stuff. I have to, if I needed to move, I would have to move in the break periods because that's generally how long the rental contracts tend to go, being in a college town. It makes for needing to relocate really easy, but it also makes it really difficult. Um, because if I needed to move in the middle of a school term, there wouldn't be a whole lot of places for me to go that are available and also in my price range. So ultimately, anything that I could do, I couldn't because it wasn't available. Um, or, in some cases, I was just underqualified for. Um, because I live in a college town, there's like two populations. There are um, the people who are here for school, and then there are the residents who live here. The people who live in my town are the type of people who most would call snowbirds. They move to and from when it's hot or when it's cold. So anytime it's snowy, everybody bails, except for like long-term residents who are more or less choose to live here. Who knows why? And so all kinds of apartments, businesses will just suddenly close their doors because there's no people coming in to enjoy the stuff. So like restaurant hours will drastically change. Um, and and sup, homie. Um, Also, there's old people here. Lots of old people here. So, because there's lots of old people here, there's also a lot of jobs that specifically cater to older people, specifically healthcare related. So, lots of nursing jobs, lots of um, tech type, not tech type, what do they call them? Like blood nursing assistants. So, RNs, LPNs, um, that kind of stuff. People who aren't quite doctors. There's a lot of jobs available for those types of people, partly because it is a revolving door kind of business. Also probably because be um, nurse practitioners, like basically a doctor adjacent type jobs. So they're going to school too, and in addition to working, and eventually they level up and they go on to do that thing. So they're no longer nurses, so they have to fill those positions. Blah blah blah. You get the idea. I do not know how to do that. I don't have a degree in nursing. I have a degree in English literature, and finding a job using that degree has been pretty fucking difficult, at least in the places that I've landed. Um, so I haven't been able to get a job in nursing, and I haven't really been able to get a job, an office job, because a lot of people who are in those jobs have been doing them for 20 plus years. They're not going anywhere unless they suddenly, that sort of thing. But that's also not likely to happen. For me, as a person who doesn't have a recent um, reflection of that in my work history, I have had way too many jobs over the course of my life. Mostly because, again, I am 100% neurodivergent as hell. And because of that, it's been really hard for me to keep work because people don't know what to do with me or how to utilize me properly. And I was undiagnosed for a very, very long time. So this whole time I thought to myself, oh, maybe something's wrong with me. And it turns out there was. Nothing wrong necessarily, but I was different. And that's why it was difficult for me to find and keep employment. And it didn't help that I was also socialized really fucking weird because my parents are terrible people. So it's been fun. Hashtag not really. But in the positive spin you could say on that is that I have a lot of experience doing a lot of different things. I've been a manager. I've been a opener slash closer. I've worked in restaurants. I've been a driver. I've been an office worker. I've done a lot of different stuff. So I can apply a lot of those things, especially things that I ended up doing on the side for myself. I had spent about 2 years like inconsecutively, not like all over the place, across the board with this specific company. It was a menu designing company for um, paper. What do they call? What do they call? Souvenir, I guess is maybe the word I'm looking for. Souvenir menus that you get when you would go to certain restaurants. They were paper and usually bicolor, like black and red or blue or green in some cases. Paper with ads all around the edges and on the back and sometimes on the front, depending on how much advertising space was being um, allotted. And so it would be a free menu to the restaurants, which the restaurants love. Everybody loves something free. The reason they were free is because the ad space was what paid for the service essentially. We had a department that specifically designed, typeset, etc. the menus, and then we had an advertising company that would reach out to local communities, basically cold call them to get advertisers to be willing to spend their money putting an ad in this thing, going to this restaurant which gets how much service every year, yap yap yap, whatever whatever. It was enough of a business that it actually, had several hundred, probably even thousand or so clients. And I worked there roughly, I would say, about 2 years, just not consecutively. Either doing typesetting, doing um, production design, more or less, and in some cases editing, like copy editing and stuff like that, and um, used Adobe Print Shop or something like that, whatever program that they were using at the time, and my own graphic skills that I had developed independently using Adobe Photoshop when I pirated a version of it online and just started working with it. I actually feel like even though I didn't need any sort of professional training on the program, that I learned quite a bit about it and how to use it and how to manipulate it enough that I could pull it off. When the job became available on the market, I applied. What was the worst could happen? I worked at Arby's. Um, it was worth trying. The pay was nice in comparison to fucking Arby's, and it would be a sit down job, and I didn't have to be on my feet all day and smell like grease at the end of the night. So I applied. I got the job. I was laid off. I got hired back on. I was um, let's call it laid off again, but for more specific reasons, rather than just lack of work or the department changing, because they changed management at one point. It was the owner, and then eventually his daughter bought it, and then he bought it back from her, and then he expanded it in a couple different ways. I worked very briefly in web development with the same company. Similar concepts. They would use ad space to pay for the cost of the website, etc. I also, when they switched to full color as a full color development, I did only um, covers, menu covers, because I had the experience and the skill, and I had a decent eye for making something out of nothing, essentially. My favorite, and I regret, like a part of me regrets not asking for copies of the covers that I made so that I could add them to a portfolio. I never actually got around to doing that. I regret it now. The business has been out of business for several decades, I'm pretty sure at this point. I'm not even 100% sure that the original owner is still alive, to be perfectly honest. Um, and it doesn't matter because I'm not there anymore. I moved away from the city and state at one point in my life. Moved across the country. Um, Stuff happened and I came back and I preemptively called them and said, "Hey, I don't. Do you have a position available?" And they were like, "Actually, yes." And I got the job again, like in a different part of the department. I got to work with them again with a layoff. It was that kind of business. But when they called me back after I moved back, after they laid me off, they, I told them I'm in school now because I was in community college at that time. I was in school, and um, they had to be willing to work around my school schedule because I wasn't about to put them higher on the um, priority list than school. I really was trying hard as hell, in fact, to um, make my life better than it had been for the longest time, in fact. And uh, they were willing to work with my schedule, which was awesome. I was so really genuinely grateful when they did that. And I enjoyed the work. I really did. And I worked with them until I went on to full university and worked and lived in that town, which was like 3 hours plus away. I tried, desperately tried, to see if he would let me telecommute. But at this time, like the 2010s, He wasn't willing to do that. It didn't matter how many times I asked him. Ironically enough, he did commission me for two or three projects after I had moved away by email, but he wasn't willing to give me like regular work. So I kind of gave up at that point. I focused on school, I finished school, I was really proud of myself, and I went on to try and apply for grad school, but I didn't get into the program initially that I applied for. So when I didn't get it, I retuned my goals to keep going because I had no choice. I couldn't exactly take a step backward and like move back in with my family. I could, in theory, have done that, but I would rather chew off my own leg than have to live with those people anymore ever again. And I still ended up having to do it. It was not a great experience. Yeah. So, um, where am I going with all of this? I have a lot of experience doing a lot of different jobs, and I'm really good at a lot of different things. It just matters of how long I've done it and how much of it was paid work versus like fun hobby type shit, which is entirely marketable, by the way. You can use your hobbies, your volunteer work, all of that shit, as long as you know how to phrase it in a resume. I normally just use like Indeed to do that shit, but there are entire people who can do like resume classes and actually teach you what the fuck to do and say and how to present that stuff in a way that is self-marketable. So when you apply for jobs, you can be like, I actually know how to manage groups of 5 or more. And that could be because you do D&D, you know, or LARPing, stuff like that. You can actually market it, all these nerdy ass things that you do for funsies as job experience because it's still work. It's just fun. It's fun work. If I actually ever ended up doing decently at this would be a completely marketable skill. I see people doing production work all the time. Um, I spent a good 45 minutes talking with my spouse about this idea I had because of a piece of music I just exposed was exposed to. I shouldn't say exposed myself, but it kind of is true. One of my favorite artists, singer songwriter composers of all time, just released a EP after a couple years of not releasing any new music because COVID, because of other stuff. She actually has like a master's and or doctorate in like earth sciences or some shit like that. She is phenomenal. I am incredible. Her name is Vienna Tang. Iennateng. Um, I'll type it in chat also because I love her and I just want everybody to know who she is. She writes amazing music and her crew is fantastic, phenomenal. Um, like I would say that her style of music even isn't 100% stationary in one. She's written some really incredible stuff. Each of her albums has a separate feeling. It's not like universally the same, in my opinion, anyway. She also released a like she participated in and directed and acted in a musical production that she also composed music for regarding a reincarnation of the Buddha. It's called The Fourth Messenger. If you have the opportunity to listen to that soundtrack or even maybe find a bootleg of the production on YouTube, I strongly recommend that you do. Um, I'm I haven't gotten around to trying to find a bootleg, but if I do, I will probably send a or purchase something of hers from her merch website. That would be the equivalent of a ticket, so that I'm supporting her regardless because I want to I want to support her work. But she recently released a 3-part EP specifically because she had overheard a conversation with like or participated in a conversation with a person who said about his wife, my wife can hold two truths, and I'm proud of her for that. The concept is not a new concept. It is something that is talked about in DBT, for instance, dialectical behavior therapy, for somebody who might not know what the initialism is for. Um, the ability to kind of radically accept things. Like, I can love something even though it upsets me. I can forgive somebody for the bad stuff that they've done and also acknowledge that they hurt me. That kind of stuff. I say forgiveness because that's an example, but for me, that's a really difficult thing for a lot of reasons that I don't want to get into right now. But that ability to hold two truths is not a new concept, but she decided to take that concept and turn it into music, to use it as a like a reference point, like a touchstone to her music. She wrote two separate songs that are meant to be listened to independently and be their own pieces of music. And they're so beautiful. They're so lovely pieces. But then she takes them for the third song and overlaps them so that they play at the same time and they support each other. They work together. They harmonize, and they're also um it's not codependent. I forget the word. I'm looking for the word in my brain and I can't find it. But they coexist is probably a good one. They coexist and they harmonize and they support each other. And it is such a beautiful track. Like, all three of them are so beautiful. The first time I listened to them, I sobbed openly. Um, and then I listened more closely with the lyrics open and I sobbed again. And after like the fifth or sixth time listening to all three tracks, I started to like analyze my thoughts about them and where my emotions were coming from and see just the empowerment and the support, because it's like the songs are spark and comfort. And then the third track is Two Truths. The leading line, that like the repeating lyric that shows up in all of the songs, is this the term "we've got you." And it can be seen a couple different ways. We've got you, the community taking care of individuals in the group, and also we've got you. Like, you are such a strong, supporting person, and we exist and continue to fight and continue to be excellent people because of you. And as you're listening to these things, it's not just those those circumstances alone. It's also the idea that the person the song is for, the song is about, that can be such an exhausting role to fulfill, to be the person that everyone relies on, that it becomes so overwhelming that you kind of just get burnout and overstimulated and you're not able to really hold peace. And that comes with its own feelings of failure and depression and anxiety and all of those stuff. Like, you go out with so much energy to really stand up and fight and do your best and to support everybody around you and to make people feel like that they've got the strength too. They just need the help. They just need someone to hold them up and hold them high and like encourage them, but also maybe even coach them and teach them. Because a lot of people who take those roles have already gone through so much, and you can do a couple different things with that. You can continue to do the work, or you can become a teacher, an elder, a supportive person, and go out and help other people learn those skills, to share it. It gives you something of a legacy. It gives you something that, even though you may no longer be there, part of you will always exist because you were part of what made it exist in the first place.